بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today we are going to do a review of one of the most important tools that helps to analyze the economic environment, demand and supply. Demand and supply is a concept that is pervasive within a psyche, within our life. Everyone in our society has a concept of demand and supply, and this is actually one of the most important things that economics as professions has contributed to the world. It is an astonishing theory of how prices and output levels are determined within free markets. In fact, it is so pervasive in our life. People say all the time, it's just a matter of supply and demand. So, what I want to do today is give you an example of that. Start from the beginning. What is demand? What is supply? How do they work together? If I want to ask a question, what makes the economy run? Your answer, demand and supply always apply. As we know, supply and demand occupy a central place in economics. First of all, we study the market. A market is a place where goods or services are exchanged. All of us are involved in markets. When you buy, sell, or trade, you participate without thinking about it in market activity. You purchase food, drink, clothing, and the like in markets for goods and services. The type of market here is a goods and service market. You find a place to live through participation in the housing market. When you open a bank account or obtain a student loan, you enter the credit market. So we have three types of markets: goods and service, housing market, and credit market. And there are many types of markets. The term market is not meant to suggest some specific place where buyers and sellers meet to make exchange. The traditional use of the term is derived from the medieval custom of farmers to come to town once a week. The basic emotions of the market are conflict and competition. Emotions of the market are conflict and competition. Conflict arises because buyers and sellers have different ends in mind. Buyers want to get the most for the least, want low prices and abundant goods. Sellers have just the opposite end in mind. They wish to sell their wares but at highest possible price. Also, both buyers and sellers also face competition. The idea of demand is the easiest side of the market for most of us because we spend a lot of time buying things. Demand to an economist is a description of how people feel about the things that they buy and how those feelings determine how much of any particular good they want to buy. Your demand for French fries, as an example, depends on a lot of things, including your age, your family background, your culture, your income. Your demand for French fries and other goods depends on many things. But this list of 5 determinants covers most of the important ideas. First, number 1, price. Price, there is usually an negative relationship Negative relationship. Inverse relationship between price and the amount of an item demanded. Low prices encourage greater purchase, while higher price drive buyers away. The inverse relationship between price and the quantity demanded is the result of two powerful forces. When the price of one good rises, buyers typically seek out lower priced alternatives. This substitution effect. When the price of coffee jumps, smart grocers know that they will sell less coffee but more tea. Rising price also unleash an income effect. If you spend more on coffee, you have less income left over to buy other items. Sometimes people desire things because they are expensive. They want to buy expensive goods, therefore are a mark of higher status. This type of goods called vablen goods. Vablen goods. V-A-B-L-E-N. Vablen goods. Number 2, income. You cannot spend what you don't have. There are usually a direct relationship or positive relationship between income and desired purchases. Spending on most goods rises and falls with consumer income. There are exceptions to every rule, and some goods experience a negative income effect. Beans, for example, are purchased less frequently as income rises. 3. Prices of other goods. We have noted that the way you feel about one product depends on how much the alternatives cost. The price of other goods and services are an important part of demand. Some items can be classified as substitutes. Substitutes satisfy the same want, the same desire, the same need. Coffee, tea, milk can all be considered substitute. Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota, all substitutes from transportation. Other goods are complements. Complements are goods that are used together to satisfy some want or need, such as coffee and sugar, pencils and erasers. Number 4, tastes and preferences. The idea of demand is closely linked to our needs and desires. Demand changes when tastes and preferences shift. 5. Everything else. Sure, there is a whole world of things that affect demand for the product that you buy and not buy. The demand for umbrellas, snow shovels, suntan oil, and fire bees all depends on the weather. In obvious way, your economics professors is another example of an everything else. Everything depends on everything else, and this all adds in nowhere more appropriate than when studying the economics of demand. The demand curve. The demand curve is a map of how that desired purchase changes when the price of an item changes. Everything else that could affect demand is temporarily held constant. Price per apple is measured in this graph. In this figure, price per apple is measured along the vertical axis and the quantity demand along the horizontal axis. The demand curve shows that 1,000 apples are demanded at a price of 10 cents. Consumers only want to buy 500 apples if the price rises to 20 cents. Holding income, tastes, and everything else constant. Shifts in demand. The demand curve only shows one thing: the way that the quantity demanded changes when price changes. A change in price results in a movement along the curve to a different amount of desired purchases. A change in anything else shifts the entire demand curve because it changes the price versus quantity relationship. An increase in demand, in the economist terms of anything that makes you want to buy more apple, even if the price doesn't fall. What causes the demand increase? Income. If the income of apples eater increase, orange prices or sugar prices or price of related goods. Medical research discovered that an apple a day really does keep the doctor away. Tastes. Apple growers sponsor a successful Eat More Apples advertising. Number of buyers. Expectation. If people expect their income to rise, increase in demand, shift demand curve to right. Decrease in demand curve, shift to the left in the demand curve. The idea of supply. The idea of supply. Supply is a total description of how sellers choose the amounts and the kinds of goods and services that they produce and sell. You might think of supply as the other side of the market because you see yourself as a consumer. However, most people are both buyers of goods and services and sellers of time, talent, and experience. The idea of supply can be complicated, or we can choose to make it simple. The easiest way to approach the problem is to look at the economic variables. The most influence a typical producer's choice. Price. Price has a lot to do with producer choice. There is a direct relationship between a goods price and the amount of it offered for sale. Higher price usually bring larger quantities to the market. Number 2, cost and availability of inputs. Inputs are just goods and services used to make other goods and services. Inputs are just goods and services used to make other goods and services. They are ingredient in the recipe for cars or steel or life insurance. Inputs are used to make output. The cost of inputs has a lot to do with the supply. Like price affects sellers' profits. In general, there is an inverse relationship, negative relationship between input cost and quantity supplied. Number 3, technology. Technology, the way that inputs are combined to make output. Improving technology makes goods cheaper to produce and also improve quality. Number 4, everything else. Everything else, all sorts of events affect the process of production and sale, such as nature is a basic everything else for supply. Weather is important to supply of agricultural product. Weather is important to the supply of agricultural products. For example, too much rain, not enough rain, too much sun, not enough sun. All these conditions affect the supply of fruits and vegetables. Another example of everything else is government regulation. When the government ordered that new cars should use less gasoline, for example, the shape and size of cars changed. Their price changed too. The supply curve. The supply curve holds constant the technology, the cost, and availability of inputs and everything else except price. The supply curve map the way that the quantity supplied, horizontal axis, it changes when price alone, vertical axis, varies. The supply curve for apples is upward sloping. More apples are offered for sale at 30 cents than at 10 cents. Higher prices provide an incentive to greater production. Most supply curves that you will run into the real world and in these books are shaped roughly like this apple supply curve, but not all of them. Supply curves take a different shapes under special conditions. Sometimes supply is physically limited. No matter how high the price goes, no more can be offered for sale because of some roadblock to supply. The supply curve of apples in January is shown in this figure. The apple crop is already in. No matter how high price go, no more apples can be produced until next year. This short-run limitation gives us the vertical shape shown in the figure. In the long run, more apples can be made available. But for now, the price can change, but quantity is fixed. Just the opposite case is shown in this figure. The horizontal supply curve shows that there is an unused surplus of goods for sale. Larger and larger quantities are supplied with no increase in price. Consider the apple merchants with excess capacity. He has tons of apples already baked and in storage, but cannot find a buyer. She is willing to sell you as many apples as you want at the going market price. Such supply curves are seldom seen, but they are important when they exist. Shifts in supply or supply shifters. A change in the price of apples is a movement along the supply curve. A change in the price of apples is a movement along the supply curve. The supply curve itself shifts if something besides price changes to affect desired sales. Events that make production cheaper, more efficient, and generally increase profits cause an increase in supply. Increase in supply. Increase in supply is in the quantity supplied at each price shifts in the supply curve to the right. The increase in supply is shown by a shift out and to the right in the supply curve. This increase in apple supply could be caused by the fact that labor costs fall, inputs price, raw materials used in apple inputs become more available, new technology, government regulation, expectation. Shifter, these all factors that affect the supply shift. The market in work. The market at work. Buyers and sellers exchange their words in the market. We are all involved in markets. Market for notebooks and gasoline. The forces of supply and demand work in all these markets. Adam Smith thought that supply and demand were powerful but transparent, so he called them the invisible hand of the market. Invisible hand of the market. You can see the invisible hand more clearly when we focus on an imaginary village market in Apple country. If the market opens at 30 cents, the 30-cent price is considered good by apple growers. This relatively high price allowed them a tidy profit. They want to supply 1,000 apples in total at this price. Buyers are not so pleased. However, they want apples, but they don't want many of them at this price. The quantity demanded at 30 cents is just 100. A surplus or excess supply of 900 apples exists at this price. You can see this surplus in figure. In this figure, we have 900 surplus. 900 surplus. The market doesn't clear. Market doesn't clear because of the surplus. Many sellers, seeing that they will not find buyers of their goods at this price. So, to attract more purchases, more demanders, the producers must lower their price. On the other hand, 10 cents is considered a better price by the buyers. They offer to buy a total of 1,000 apples, but 10 cents doesn't have much profits for the sellers. Only the most efficient apple growers can make money at this price. The quantity of apples supplied here is just 100. The market fails to clear again. In this instance, a shortage or excess demand of 900 apples exists. The market responds to price, and the price responds, as we have seen, to shortage and surplus. A surplus means that some sellers cannot find buyers. They cut price to make sales. Two things happen as price falls. First, people start to buy more goods. The quantity demanded increase as price falls, a movement along the demand curve. Lower price, however, reduce profits, so less is offered for sale, a movement along the supply curve. As more is purchased but less is offered for sale, the surplus gradually disappears and equilibrium is reached. The market reacts to a shortage in the same way. A shortage means that some buyers cannot get the goods they want. These buyers offer to pay more, to bid the goods away from other purchasers. As they bid up price, some buyers revise their spending plans. Quantity demanded falls as we move along the demand curve, but more goods are offered for sale. The quantity supplied increases, a movement along the supply curve. These dual actions reduce the shortage until equilibrium is achieved. Electricity, as an example, is used for heating, air conditioning, and to run machinery. Cold temperature changes the way that demanders feel about electricity. This figure explains the relationship between demand and supply, demand for electricity and supply of electricity. Cold temperature changes the way that demanders feel about electricity. As temperatures drop, electricity users want more electricity at any given price because they want to stay warm. What would happen if the supply curve of electricity were horizontal? This supply curve might exist if current facilities could meet the increase in demand without higher marginal cost. An increase in demand with a horizontal supply creates no shortage. The larger demand is met without price increase. A second possible response to increase winter demand for electricity, shown in this figure. Here, the supply curve is vertical. This tells us that the power system has reached its maximum output. No more electricity can be generated, no matter how high the price rises. As demand increases beyond this finite limit, a shortage appears. Since no additional power is available in the short run, no additional electricity is produced when electrical rates increase in the situation shown in this figure. But households and the business set back their thermostat when faced with higher utility bills. We have seen how the market responds to higher demand when supply is horizontal. Quantity changes, price doesn't. And when it is fixed, price changes, quantity doesn't. Neither of these conditions is common in the real world. Supply curves generally slope upward. Supply curve generally slope upward, like the one in this figure. The rising demand for electricity temporarily outstrips the quantity supplied. A shortage exists. Price rises. In response to the shortage, and the rising price sets two forces in motion that bring the shortage to the end. Higher price make possible the expensive additional electrical output. The quantity supplied increases along with the price. Higher prices affect consumers too, who respond by rationing the more expensive resource. The quantity demanded falls as price rises. Shortage vanishes as quantity demanded falls and quantity supplied rises. The new equilibrium finds cold consumer using more electricity but paying more for it. More for electricity. You can find this material on this link. شكرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.